That is, some understanding of God, sin, suffering, Christ, humanity, etc. Even if you don't consider yourself a theologian, you are one. You have adopted some view of these things that leads you to do what you do in the counseling office. Again, theology matters. It's an inescapable reality. But now we see even more why it matters. Our theology is the foundational cornerstone on which we build our counseling theory and practice. Fast forward to 2014. A few weeks ago, a copy of Bob Kellemen's Gospel-Centered Counseling arrives. Not since my reading of Adams's book have I found something this good, a solid biblical foundation on which we can build our counseling philosophy and practice. Suffice it to say, I'm not trying to make Bob Kellemen into the next J. Adams. Far be it from me. Jay is unique as the founder of the modern biblical counseling movement. The writing of his first book, Competent to Counsel, and his formation of the Christian Counseling Education Foundation, CCEF or CCEF, both in the late 1960s, and then later on, his formation of the National Association of Nouthetic Counselors, recently renamed the Association of Certified Biblical Counselors, all set him apart as a giant figure of whom we are all in a huge amount of debt. Probably a better way to state things, Bob's book, Gospel-Centered Counseling, is built on the shoulders of Jay's work. It is a theologically rich counseling guide for the next generation. It starts out by setting a thorough theological framework, which Bob works through over the course of the book. The Word. Where do we find wisdom for life in a broken world? The Trinity community. What comes into our mind when we think about God? Whose view of God will we believe? Christ or Satan's? Creation. Whose are we? In what story do we find ourselves? Fall. What's the root source of our problems? What went wrong? Redemption. How does Christ bring us peace with God? How does Christ change people? Church. Where can we find a place to belong and become? Consummation. How does our future destiny with Christ make a difference in our lives today as saints who struggle against suffering and sin? Sanctification. Why are we here? How do we become like Jesus? How can our inner life increasingly reflect the inner life of God? Theologically rich, isn't it? Hand this book to a young seminary student or counselor who is pining away trying to figure out the connection between the Bible, faith, and counseling, and you will hand that young person a gold mine. Bob understands that theology matters, and that sound theology leads to sound practice, and he makes that clear in this outstanding book. Patiently read, consider, absorb the theological concepts. Find a friend and share these ideas. Use the companion discussion application guide. Share in church. Pray about it. Put your theology into practice. Then praise God and thank Him for giving us His Word and a rich theology that helps us understand how to care for hurting souls. Deepak Riju, Ph.D., Pastor of Biblical Counseling and Families at Capitol Hill Baptist Church, Washington, D.C., President of the Biblical Counseling Coalition, author of The Pastor and Counseling and On Guard, Protecting and Responding to Child Abuse at Church. Introduction. Changing Lives with Christ's Changeless Gospel Truth. We've all heard of brilliant surgeons with horrific bedside manners. We've likely known some scholarly people whose relational skills could use a little development. On the other hand, many people know what it's like to care deeply, but do not know what to do after the hug. Perhaps we've experienced friends who can cry with us, but seem unsure how to offer much additional help. God calls us to love well and wisely.